Welcome. All right, I will call the meeting to order. And we will embark on our third of a series of budget review meetings. And without further ado, I'll move right to item 2A. Lucy?
Yep.
Floor is yours.
All right. I just wanted to say thank you again for allowing me to have this extension. I apologize if, it put anybody off, from the last meeting, but I do appreciate it.
Do you want me to bring up your spreadsheet? Is that easier for you if I bring up your spreadsheet?
I have my spreadsheet in front of me, so if it's up to you, if anybody wants to look at it, they can. If you want to bring it up, I don't have it on my iPad. I just have it in front of me. So if you want to bring it up, that would be.
Yeah, if you could do that, go right ahead, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you.
That.
There we go.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Okay. All right.
This is the latest one that I have.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. So I'll just jump right in. For the fiscal year budget 1, I really didn't make that many changes except for the town clerk assistant wages. I would like them to be funded at the full amount. I think I'm off by 30 cents, so I apologize for that. Because the 2021 budget was reduced by the 2021 budget was $11,648.33 because I had an assistant for a little while. She was only part-time in my office, 12 hours a week. The other hours she was working in the assessor's office. And that amount, the $11,648, was the amount that the select board approved to get me to have an assistant from, I believe it was October 5th until July 1, 2021. So I was working without an assistant from July, I think it was the 17th, until October 5th, where I got to hire on my assistant. I worked with volunteers. I had election workers helping me out. So I got by, but the assistant position is not an administrative assistant to the town clerk. It is the assistant town clerk position. And you can see it's always been funded across the years. She only works part-time, 18 hours a week, but she is there when I am not there. She covers for me as the town clerk. So I would like that to be back fully funded. Budget 1, I didn't ask for any increase in my line, my salary. The town clerk expenses, I asked it to be at $1,500 again. I'm not sure why there was the usage. So 2019 and 2020 and 2021 budget, I think those are wrong because if you look at 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, that's the amount that was used in my office. And then 2018 was $585, 2019 was $1,000. So the 2020 budget, that line where it says town clerk expenses, that should have been put in by accounting, the usage amount. So I didn't use $15,000. That's the number that I was asking for.
1,500 or 15,000, Lucy?
Well, 1,500, but it's all of the lines. If you go across from 2012 to 2018, you can see the usage of the expenses. So it shows I used $549.60, but it doesn't show what I asked for. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure where this is. This is a little bit confusing. If it looks confusing to you, it's because 2018, I probably asked for, 1,000 or 1,500, and I used 585.50. You see that?
I think, Lucy, that, on 2019, those are your actual expenses. And then when we roll over to 2020 and 2021,
Yeah.
the approved budget, those are your target figures.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, 2020 hasn't been closed out yet. So that's why it's not showing your expenses for 2020.
Oh, okay. So I thought it was closed out. Okay. All right. So, then that's fine. So I am asking for $1,500 again for that. Election registration salaries, I did find out that was for when registrars were being paid by the town clerk, but that no longer exists. So that line item never gets used. It did get used in 2015. I was the assistant in 2014. So anything after that, up until 2019 is when I was elected. So I'm not sure they must have got taken out of the budget after 2015. Election registration wages. So I'm asking for the 4,500. I actually wanted 1,000 there, but the elections are getting expensive for hiring people, and at $12 an hour, but there's $3,500 difference there because I believe I think it's because the town meeting there was money taken out of my budget before the town meeting, and I asked for it back, the $3,500 be put back in. I think I explained that in my breakdown, my narrative to you.
Right.
Yes, you did.
And then the 11,500, the budget one, I'm just asking for 11,500 for expenses. And I explained that to you in the narrative too, that, people don't realize how much goes into paying for an election. It's not just workers. It's paying for ballots. It's paying for the machine. It's paying for the maintenance of the machine. It's paying for anything that has to do with elections, signs, paper. There's a lot of expenses that go into an election besides paying people to work. So that's fiscal year budget one. There really isn't a lot of a difference, but yeah. So does anybody have any questions, or do you want me to move on to budget two?
Just a question about your comment about the voting machine.
Yep.
This has been an ongoing issue?
So the voting machine in 2017, I believe, it did have an issue during an election. And I talked to the manufacturer, and he says that, it's fine, it works, but if it ever breaks for good, they're going to have to find parts for it because they don't make the machine anymore. We are one of the few municipalities that have this machine. Most of the municipalities have, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a newer machine. They have poll pads where, we don't have to have a voters list. They, check into a poll pad. So, and that's why in the budget number 2, I have that number raised up. But yes, it's been an ongoing request. I went to the Capital Improvement Committee years ago and was told, let's put it on the back burner and we'll revisit it. And it didn't get revisited. I did get quotes, and I can bring up quotes again if I need to. But I really think that it's time to, get a machine. And, the company that comes out and does maintenance, their price just went up in January of 2020. because of the pandemic. So it's another $50. It was $250 and now it's $300 for them to come out and just, we have to pay for the coding of the memory cards that go in the machine that do all the counting. And, the ballot printing, we have to pay for that. So, yeah.
Could I ask Lucy if you would consider submitting to the Capital Improvement Committee again for that item?
I absolutely would, and I will get three quotes. There aren't that many companies that make these machines, but, I'll do what I can to get quotes, but I would love to submit it to the Capitol. I would, absolutely, yes.
Does the Capital Committee have a dollar threshold on items to be submitted? Is there a $5,000?
I believe it was 5,000, but can someone else, I don't know, Francine, can you answer that? Or?
Yeah, I believe it's 5,000, so you just meet the threshold.
Right, that you have to get, if it's over 5,000, you have to get quotes, correct? Is that, or do you have to get quotes for anything under 5,000 as well?
I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
I just know that they consider items 5,000 and above.
Right, I'm in agreement with that, yes.
So anything under 5,000 doesn't get through the door for the Capital Improvement Committee. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Comes an expense item?
I think what they would probably do is bundle it if they have another smaller project like they did with Forest School.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Well, I will be happy to submit something to the Capitol. I mean, I don't know when the last time they met, so have they met recently, or does anybody know?
No, they have not. Nothing is scheduled as of yet.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay.
So a request dictates the scheduling, probably.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
So moving on to fiscal year 22, the town clerk salary, I did ask for a 3% increase. And I sent you all a few spreadsheets with town clerk salaries, comparisons, and this increase, there hasn't been an increase since 2019. This increase comes out to $23.90 a week in my paycheck if I were to get that increase. It's $11.95 per year, and I think it's low. But I'm gonna, start with that. I think that I should be, comparable with some other town clerks that have the population that we have. But this is what I'm asking for right now. The same thing with the assistant town clerk. I just want her to be brought up to being funded fully, because she will be, for fiscal year 22, a full year as the assistant. So same thing, the $1,500, the $4,500, and then the $16,500. I put the expenses. I added the $5,000 because I received a grant in October for $5,000. So I'm asking for that line to be raised by $5,000. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Lucy, could I just ask, was the grant through the CARES Act?
No, it was through an election process.
Okay.
Ed had applied for it as the town administrator, and He filled out the paperwork. I had gotten the link and he had filled it out for us.
Good.
And most of the municipalities were offered this grant. And a lot of, it was over $1 million they gave out. And some municipalities got 5,800. I think the minimum they could give was 5,000. So, but. I did also get some reimbursements from the state for postage that Jen was going to have put back into my my account for postage. So.
Okay. Questions from the committee?
I have a couple.
Hi, Mary.
Sure.
Hey, Lucy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Your family's good?
I'm sorry?
Your family's doing good too? They're recuperating?
Yes, yes, much, much better. Yeah, thank you.
I have a question regarding, I know that you're the senior person in the office. How many hours do you work, and currently what is your hourly rate?
So I work 32 hours. Well, I'm scheduled to work 32 hours. I work a lot of hours during election time. From July 1st of 2020 until November 4th, I probably worked 7 days a week at 12 hours a day. And the hourly rate, I believe, is $23.95 is what I make hourly. I'm elected, so I don't think I have an hourly wage unless I break it down. So, but on a weekly, I work 32. Well, I'm scheduled. I go in between 7 and 7:30 every day, Monday through Thursday, and stay till 4 and work through lunch, because I work for the town and I want to be there for the town as much as possible. And, during COVID, I did the best I can to provide for the town. So the scheduled hours are 32, but I work more than that.
And
I probably work up to 40.
And the assistant town clerk, you had mentioned 18 hours a week.
Yes,
Hourly
sure.
rate for that individual is?
$16.30.
And then the other question I have, it's in regards to the election registration wages, the $4,500, which is a continuation from last fiscal year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Last fiscal year was a presidential election year, so you had lots of primaries and elections, etc.
Yes.
So 2022, how
Yeah.
many elections are scheduled?
So for 2022, we will have the normal election, the local election. We will have the annual town meeting. We will have the state election for the governors. That state election, November, I think it's the 6th. And any elections that the state, if there's a special election coming through, then we have to jump on it. This year we were not thrown at us, but we had an election on March 3rd, and then we had a special election for a seat that was vacated that we had to, cover for. We had our local election. We had the state the state election, and then we had the general election in November. So we had 5 elections. We had 2 special town meetings and an annual town meeting. And, if the select board wants to call a special town meeting, they can call it. So I don't know how many meetings we will have next year. And as far as elections scheduled, we only have two so far. So, but with that comes the ballots and and I just got word today that the state did approve mail-in voting. So we're going to have to start covering for postage for that. So,
We haven't had that in the past?
yes, but this is our first year it rolled out. This was the first year that the state rolled out. They paid for the postage that all the cards went out to the voters, but we had to mail out all the ballots and pay for the postage. We got some reimbursement, not a full reimbursement. So,
Okay. In regard to that question on the hours,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, did I hear you say that the assistant is never in the office when you are?
oh yeah, she is. She's
All right, so she covers for you when you're out, but she's also there when you're there.
yes, so she is there from 8:30 to 12:30.
Okay,
And she is very flexible. So if, we have some situation where we can work it out, she will cover 12 to 4, as long as she gets 4.5, 4.5.
okay. I guess the other thing on the salary, and this is for, I guess, my own clarification, or maybe for others as well. My understanding, that's not the purview of the finance committee. Salaries. So have you made requests to, I guess it has to go through the PQB and the select board, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Before it gets to us.
Mm-hmm.
So have you pursued that? Or are you
No.
just making a request to us?
I have not made the request to the PPB board. I have been thinking about having the job rescored, if that's possible, because it is an elected position.
Lucy,
So, yeah,
because you're an elected position, your salary increase has to be done through the budget process, through town meeting. It won't go to personnel.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Because she's an elected official and the same as mine, any salary changes has to be done through the budget process and or through town meeting.
So it does have to come to us then?
Yes.
Yes, all elected officials' salaries have to be set by town meeting, and they have to be set before the tax rate is set.
So and the tax rate has been set for 22? No.
For 2021, yes.
All right, no. Sorry.
The salary can change at the May town meeting.
Okay.
All right, so if an elected official is looking for a raise,
Mm-hmm.
what's the first step?
I would think we would have to put an article on the warrant, or we
So
would have to. Go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, I actually have information from back when Donna went for the salary increase
Okay.
back in fiscal year 17, and she had referred to town council, and they said any salary change needs to be in the budget request. So she changed her request from 2% to the 58. So she was asking for 58,000. And then it would have to be approved at town meeting as part of the budget.
So she went to finance and asked for the increase. The finance recommended it to be put on as a town article on the warrant for town meeting.
So between finance and select board, they put it on the warrant, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have an email from her to FinCom.
Okay. So finance would have to make the recommendation to increase the town clerk's salary in with approval by the select board.
Wow.
Correct.
You learn something every day. Francine, are you there, Francine?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Are you aware of that this doesn't go to the PQB? And don't you think that would be the normal process?
Well, I think there are differences for positions that are elected, and they report essentially to the voters. They don't report to the select board or the finance committee. They report to the voters. So it gets approved by finance in terms of the numbers, and the select board, I'm sure, based on the same thing. But ultimately, the voters at town meeting approve the increase, because that's the reporting structure in the town. Am I right, Ed?
Yes, you are.
Wow.
Elected officials actually don't fall under the personnel policy. Sometimes I wish we did, but we don't.
I understand.
Yeah.
My thought was that all salary, anything regarding salary went to the personnel board. I would have assumed. But now that puts a totally different burden on us to go. You and others have provided surveys that now is incumbent upon us to be able to go through and digest all of these surveys, and then, say, and make a determination as to where you belong. This puts, I'm sorry, this puts an immense responsibility to the committee.
Well, but the other thing is, once you see the full budget, then you understand what you can and can't, what you're able to do under the usual scenario. And then you have to consider alternatives like a 2.5 override in order to meet these other obligations. And that could be a recommendation from you as well. But ultimately, the select board doesn't even make that decision. Those decisions are made by the town.
Can I just make a comment? I would not want the town to do a 2.5 override to give myself an increase. I would not want that.
Okay. I'm just saying, once we put the whole budget together,
right?
Instances where, and it may not just be salary related, there are other expenses that have changed and needs, and that's I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying that's a consideration.
And if I can say, I would be happy to break these surveys down even more for you if you needed me to.
Well, I really haven't spent an awful lot of time with them at this point. But may come to that. It just, to me, it puts a whole another burden here for this process, if you know what I mean. I mean, the window's tight enough as it is, and this is something I had no clue. I just thought this was a total. Somebody was looking for a salary increase, that it would legitimately be a personnel issue, which to me, unbeknownst to me, would go to personnel. But now it's a budgetary process that, I don't know.
Well, Jen and I are the only elected officials that, I believe, right? Jen, we are the only two elected.
The only paid elected officials, yeah.
Yeah. Jen and I are the only two paid elected officials. So
this should really, honestly, I agree with you, Ken, because this should really have some type of schematics as far as increases and how that looks along the lines for us to be doing all that information. We really have to obtain those, through our own, so you have that separation between who's been providing those salary surveys compared to us retrieving those. And then what does that schematic look like going forward? I'm quite frankly taken aback that isn't something that's under a general purview of a personnel board, regardless of whether they're either voted on members or not.
Just to let you know that one of the surveys, that I sent you, and I think I wrote on the top of it, that was done by the Mass Town Clerks Association, and it was done on January 11th of 2021, just so you know where that came from.
Thank you.
I don't want,
So the personnel board, I even asked them today, I requested that maybe they grade my position. They weren't sure if they were even allowed to because I don't fall under them. So they were going to discuss it once I put in a formal request, because as far as like graded, I just wanted to see where I would fall, because our positions, because they're elected, have never been scored. Brianna. Sorry. Yeah, and unfortunately, it's, Mass General Law says that elected officials' pay can only be voted upon at a town meeting. So we can't, if there's a 2% increase mid-year, which has happened in the past, because say the unions negotiated and they ended up getting 2% pay raises, and everyone else, the board decides, oh, we're going to give everyone 2% raise to reflect that. Lucy and I wouldn't even be able to get that 2% raise.
right.
So, so our, this is our only chance. Our salaries can only be changed at a town meeting.
Okay. Okay. Because that's total news to me.
Yeah.
I don't know about the other. That sounds like it is to Rachel as well.
It is.
Now, so let me ask another question. I don't want to belabor this in your time slot here, Lucy.
That's okay. That's all right.
What happens with the people in the unions and somebody in their budgetary process? And granted, they're not elected officials. Let's say department heads or whatever. What happens with their budget line item that is calling for a 2 or a 3 or a 4% salary increase? Is that the same review process?
I can't answer that.
I mean,
Jen?
whatever they negotiate in their contract, it's not the same as the same review process as like for me or Lucy. Is that what you mean? Or how it's negotiated? I guess I don't quite fully understand.
Well, you're saying that basically it's the finance committee's responsibility to approve the number, and then that has to go out at town meeting and be voted on. But now, because these people in the union are not elected officials, but they're basically coming in the same process and asking for a raise.
Well, their contracts are negotiated. They go through negotiations with the select board, town administrator, and whatever happens in those negotiations is how they're going to get paid. So they decide, okay, well, you're going to get 1%, say July 1st, you're going to get another 1% January 1st. So depending on what they negotiate is
In the contract,
in the contract is what they receive.
Right.
Whom do they negotiate with?
They negotiate with you, right? Select board.
They negotiate with the select board, me, correct?
So there are individual contracts with some department heads, and then there's the collective bargaining agreement that we have with, that automatically sets the terms, for the highway department, for the police department, the schools.
And for dispatch.
Yeah.
And then the town lives by those terms.
So they'll be negotiating again soon for fiscal year 22 highway and police, I believe, right, Ed?
July 1st, isn't it, Mary?
Yeah.
All three.
Correct.
Yeah. So that
So-
will
Anyway.
almost have to be estimated in the budget.
Yeah.
As to what those increases may be.
Right. Does anybody have any other questions about my budget, or I'm sorry, Ken,
Lucy.
I'm sorry, Ken, that
Ready
you
to get
got,
sidetracked.
I'm sorry that you got thrown a wrench in the wheel. But you learn, like you said, you learn something new every day. So,
I have a final question
sure.
on the priorities, Lucy.
Yeah.
Tell us what's your 1, 2, 3 priorities?
My, well, I would really like the increase, but I would really like a new machine. So I would say those two are my top two.
Which one's your number one?
The number one would be my increase.
And the second, machine?
Nope, that would be my increase in pay. But since that has to go to town meeting, I would say then the machine would be my top number one. And then making sure that my assistant's line item is funded for a year. And the election expenses is put back to 16.5.
Okay, Mary, you got it?
We're good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All set? Or
Any other questions?
No,
Thoughts, comments?
if you need any more information from me, just let me know. I can email it to you tomorrow. I hope the packet that I sent you was a little bit informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate you too. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Have a good night, Lucy.
Thank you. Bye, Jen.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Jen,
Hi, how are you?
your turn on the floor.
Oh, yes. So where would you like to start?
Wherever you'd like.
All right, so for fiscal year 22, budget 1, I'm on the treasurer spreadsheet.
Let me bring it up. Jen, let me bring it up, just so everybody.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Oh, I think this is the older one, but that's okay. There's not much change. I did a new one today
Oh, okay.
and I did email it out, and I emailed out more backup with it to FinCom and to Select Board and to Ed. I just made a few changes because I had realized that there were a lot of departments asking for increases, and I didn't want to I wanted to properly calculate the increase I had put in. So that did change a little, and I added increases for my assistants. But I can just tell you what that is as I go. So for treasurer collector salary, well, first of all, for fiscal year 22 budget 1, everything is level funded. I mean, the salary, the wages for my assistants, my expenses, I left level funded as to what I received last year. However, last year I did give up $500. Treasurer software, I did ask for quotes on that, so there will be a $114.89 change there that it's contracted, we'll have to pay. And then tax title expenses, I also left level funded at $3,000. The only changes I made in the fiscal year 22 budget 2 was I added a 2% increase for my assistants to keep them. So their personnel did do new wage charts. And although they have to be finalized and approved, the $1,147.35 difference that I now have for salaries, wages, treasurer, collector, in the new budget I sent you, is just a 2% increase from 21 to 22. The 9,475 for expenses is only adding the 500 back in that I gave up last year. So if you didn't receive my email today, then I did do a whole breakdown of what my expenses were in it. Did you see that?
I didn't check email today, Jen.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry I sent it so late, but I didn't even know till Thursday, and we don't work so I only had today to work on it because I had so many other things to do Thursday. I just couldn't. So I did do a narrative of how my expenses are spent. So that is in the email from today. I can kind of, I guess, go over it. I have about $1,800 that goes to Arthur Jones, the deputy collector. $2,000 for our continuing disclosure. We have $1,075 that goes to bonding the employees in the office plus the deputy collector. I spend about $350 for Go to My PC, so our software companies can remote into our systems and upload files for us. Last year I spent about $225 on dues, different trainings. I spent $340 on mileage. I paid about $1,000 to Point Software for bills. Those are just like the actual bills, that the paper basically. And then another couple thousand on office supplies. So you'll see that in the email when you are able to open it. But that is there. I did ask for a substantial increase in my salary. And I know on the spreadsheet you have, it says 55,672.64. I changed that to 59,080.25 in the new spreadsheet I sent. I basically took what was approved at town meeting for the prior treasurer collector and added 2% for each following year. She had done salary surveys, which I also had attached to the email I sent today. So there were 2 salary surveys. These surveys were back from 2017. And still, for instance, let's see, the town of Lee, which is really similar to Southampton in size, the salary was $58,000 in 2017 for the treasurer collector. The town of Hatfield, they have a population of a bit over 3,000. The treasurer collector was 2 different elected positions, and in total she was making $73,000 a year. And there's all different towns like on those surveys that you'll see. And that's why Donna received a pay raise. And that's why it was voted at town meeting, because she proved that the position should indeed receive a higher compensation. So they reduced that when I was elected in at town meeting, based off, I guess, saying that, maybe I didn't have the experience. I mean, I did have quite a bit of experience even starting, but I mean, whatever the reason was, it was reduced. So I'm basically just asking for that money to be put back into the budget, and then 2% for each year after, because, I am a Massachusetts certified collector. I have a bachelor's degree. I have over 7 years of experience in municipal finance, and I think I deserve to be paid accordingly. So that was that. Any questions there?
No. Any questions, folks?
Jen, how many hours are you designated to work during a week? Is it in a weekly basis?
So because I'm elected, I don't really have designated hours. I mean, I guess typically you could say that, I would work the hours that the treasurer collector office is open. So it would be 62 hours biweekly. But, honestly, I find myself all the time, I'm entering receipts at home. I'll spend like 4 or 5 hours in an evening entering receipts. So I would say that, there's times that maybe I work those 32 hours, but there's times when I work more than that also.
Jen, could I ask, do you know on the salary survey, the comparisons, were those 40-hour-a-week positions?
So Francine, I don't know if you probably haven't seen the email yet either, but
They're all broken out.
it does tell you in the survey,
Yeah.
it tells you how many hours they're
Okay.
for. So
right.
I have one right here. Hold on.
Yeah. I should have asked this of Lucy also.
There was one too that actually, and it's old, it's from 16, but it's still like,
Yeah.
it actually has the tax collector in there, treasurer, town clerk, accountant, assessors. So it's interesting because it shows different towns. But the MCTA one from 17 does show how many hours. It shows how many staff the departments have. It shows the annual budget, the population, the title, the salary. If they're elected, it has a whole bunch of information. However, it is from 2017, so it's old, but yeah, but it is in the email. I know Ed saw the email.
Thank you.
I got it too, only I was on the road today most
Probably
of the
didn't
day
have
and I
time,
didn't get
yeah,
a chance
I
to
know.
spend any time with it.
It was at the end of more towards, I know.
It was about 3:00, I think, when I came in.
Yeah. Let's see. So I guess if there's no questions there, we can move on to the employee benefits.
Before you move on, Jen, I just want to just clarify, there are 2 other individuals in your office, correct?
Yes.
So the assistant treasurer collector, does that have a set hours that that person works every week and an hourly rate?
Yep. So she works 62 hours biweekly. Her hourly rate right now is $18.99. And then I have an admin clerk who works 60 hours biweekly, and her hourly rate is $16.95.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. On employee benefits, I guess the first line is the retirement contributory. Unfortunately, that really increased this year. That's based off of hold on one second. We do an aggregate salary report in October. And they take that report and I guess the report of all other municipalities, and they end up coming up with a figure, a percentage of what each municipality will owe. I'm gonna find it. So our portion this year is the $978, $545. Do you have any questions on that?
Jen, are you stating that someone outside of Southampton does the bargaining for the medical, and is that done outside of Southampton and we're just told what our?
For the retirement contribution from Hampshire County Retirement, yes, we are just told what we owe.
Okay.
But they do base it off a report and of the aggregate salaries of the employees for the prior year. So we had any increases of employee wages basically are an increase to that contribution. Adding any new employees, So,
And Jen, can I ask, does overtime factor into that retirement contribution as well? Is that part of the calculation?
no.
Okay.
Let's see.
But the other parts of that calculation happen to be how that retirement system has been doing investment wise, how it is where it is as far as on the mandatory funding scale. So if years where you fall below your target for your actual investment return, then subsequent years you're going to have to put in higher contribution rates to catch up again. Vice versa, if you have real good years, you'll get there sooner and increases won't be as large.
So do we have a deficit now? Or a surplus?
I have never, I mean, what Ed said, I honestly didn't realize. Our retirement contribution has increased every year since 2015. I haven't seen it go down.
It'll never go down. It'll just the rate it goes up like slow.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty substantial.
So it's fully funded. There's no deficit.
No, it's not fully funded yet.
So I have a report, I don't know if it will help you, but I could send it to you of how they come up with the calculation.
Yeah.
And it has all of the different towns and what they contribute in your percentage. So our percentage is 3.5%. It's based a lot on, your number of employees and your wages. We have our aggregate salaries are for $3,026,036. So for another example, well, it doesn't show me how much. This is a long report. Maybe I could send it to you, and then if you had it in front of you, I could try to help you understand it. But
all right. Yeah, if you could.
Yeah, and they're also willing, they've come out before just to talk about it and how the retirement system works. So they're willing to come and, do meetings and have discussions of how that's, how that number is calculated, the retirement system themselves. So.
All right. I'll just jump in here. How about the Medicare increase?
So Medicare is another item that is based off of wages.
Yep.
So where is my spreadsheet on how I calculated that? So basically, this computer is really doesn't work well for this, but okay. So when I do the calculations for health insurance, I always use the month of February, because that's usually where we're, the last month that we've paid for before, or we're billed for when budgeting is happening. So I used the February payroll. I have a payroll of $290,000 times, I'm trying to see hold on one second, sorry. I put an increase on that of 4% on that payroll, just assuming that there are going to be raises of some sort. I mean, it's an estimate. I'm not sure if there will be raises, or not. I know there's at least going to be contractual raises. So I added a percentage to that payroll.
4% of the total payroll?
Yeah. And then I took that $295,800 I times it by 0.0145, which is the Medicare rate.
Yep.
To get a total of the 428910 times the 26 payrolls is our 111,516.60. And Medicare is another thing that, you know, it's based off wages. So
Right.
as wages increase, it will increase every year.
All right. But in theory, though, our wages have not increased. It's the 4% that's doing this, right?
I mean, our wages really have increased because last year, I mean, the unions negotiated raises in their contracts. So highway, police, dispatch, some department heads, and especially school, there's a lot of raises in there. So they have increased.
Okay. Okay, general insurance?
General insurance
General insurance and workers' comp are mine, so you'll have to wait till the next meeting. Or you can grill me now if you want.
So those are yours, okay.
Those are Ed's.
All right, we'll wait till it's due.
I don't mind, ever.
Okay,
So the health insurance, group health insurance, those all went down because the group insurance trust did vote to give a 2% decrease to all the health insurance plans starting July 1st, 2022. That also, the group health also includes dental. There's only one dental plan that is partially paid for by the town, and that also decreased 9%. So those numbers did go down a bit.
so that's contributory coverage? The employees pay a portion?
Yes, the employees pay, well, for the active employees, they pay 30% and the town pays 70%. And for retired, it's 50-50.
Okay,
The group life, group life is also 70-30, 50-50 for retirees.
okay,
OPEB, I estimated 22 at 3,300, which is what we had to pay this year with our new company for a full valuation. So I'm hoping that, you know, it stays the same or similar. I don't have an actual 22 quote from them yet, but I did just hire a new actuarial to do the OPEB study, and they are significantly lower in cost than the prior actuarial that we had when I started here. So as you can see from the 2021 budget, we had to budget $10,000, and I only ended up using 3,300 of that this year.
okay.
Can I have a question regarding the employee benefits? Now, do you fall into that category, or are you like a subcontracted or per diem without benefits because you're voted? How does that work?
No, we're still benefited.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're still able to, you know, have any of the benefits if we choose to. And we're still part of the retirement system. I mean, there are things that, you know, like if we leave, say we are not elected back in, we don't fall under UI wages, so we're not able to collect unemployment. So that's one thing, you know, if someone else runs and gets in, basically we're done and there's no more pay, there's no unemployment. So there's that. we don't have actual like vacation time or sick or, so, you know, when we leave, there's no like paying out for vacation time. There's nothing there. And our salaries always have to be voted at town meeting. So, I mean, there's bonuses. There's pros and cons definitely to being elected.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Jen, before I go out to questions?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. Committee, any questions?
No. Nope.
Is that you, Mary? Because I can't see you.
No, no questions.
No questions, okay.
All right, so,
All right,
so I know that, so, you know, when you do receive my email, if you have any questions on that and any of the backup information I supplied, you can contact me either by email or call my office, whatever, you know, works is fine.
okay. Okay,
Thank you.
guess we're good. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Have a good night, Jen.
You too, Ed.
Thanks.
All right, so we're 5 minutes behind schedule. Is the superintendent with us?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, it's
There he is.
that bearded man behind the Foster Grant.
Superintendent Randall Kemp, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. The, as we have said, the floor is yours. You can start wherever you'd like.
Well, did you have a chance to read my budget narrative?
Yes, sir, I did. I think, I'm sure the rest of the committee did too.
I tried to be pretty thorough in that.
You did.
So I don't know, where would you like me to start? Would you like to go over that? Or do you have any questions about it?
Why don't you walk them through it, Randall?
Okay. So highway superintendent line, that's pretty self-explanatory. I tried to follow the directions, so I didn't put a raise in that line, but I gave some background of the position and why I think it deserves to be looked at. The second line is the assistant to the highway superintendent. And that position is currently open right now, but we're accepting applications to replace that position. It's a 20-hour-a-week position and basically helps keep me organized and takes some of the administrative workflow.
So you have received some applications then?
Not as yet, no.
Oh, you haven't? I thought I heard you say you did. Okay.
We're accepting applications. So we've just got the PCF through all of the bureaucratic hoops it needs to travel through.
Right, and that position's been vacant since September.
Yes, but due to a medical leave, and then after the medical leave expired, the employee resigned in January.
Oh, all right.
And then just to let you know is that's 20 hours per week through the highway department. There are additional hours for that position that are funded through
the transfer station enterprise fund.
Transfer station and the water department also.
Negative.
No, not the
Tom
water.
Gahn, the water superintendent, has decided to go his own way with that.
Okay.
So it's just highway and transfer station.
Very good.
For a total of 20 hours, Randall, or is it more hours?
No, it's 20 hours through the highway department. And I budgeted, well, see, there's a lot of moving parts. There was some discussion about how much the position was going to pay. And I think that's been resolved. I was told it was reclassified. But I want to make sure of that. I think it's safe to say there's 5 hours per week budgeted for transfer station duties, but that's in a different budget.
Okay. I just had a question in your second paragraph there. Negotiated a raise in the executive session that never got funded.
Correct.
Could you explain?
Well, we had it was another, I mean, this is my 7th budget season, so I've been here 7 times before. We,
It's not the same for us, though.
What's that?
We haven't been here 7 times, or at least I'll speak for myself. I haven't been here 7 times before, so I'm trying to get as much background as I can.
Sure. I started negotiating before town meeting. I had a proposed contract that was basically my ask. That was given to the finance committee, and the finance committee at that time was made up. The individuals decided to distribute the ask to people. And so there was a lot of resistance to anybody getting raises that year. And so the position wasn't funded at town meeting. And so the select board chose not to continue to pursue any of the, not to pursue the contract that they had agreed to.
Was this before the union?
Before what? I'm not a union employee.
You're not. You're not. Okay.
Negative.
Got it.
And I'm one of the, no, I guess I'm not one of the few department heads without a contract, but I am a department head without a contract.
Okay. So, I got it. I'm good. All right.
All right.
Move on. That's fine.
Next one is the general highway line. This is basically, am I allowed to share screens? Is that complicated to do?
See that? Do you see it already on your screen? You don't see
I do. So if I have a spreadsheet up and I hit share screen.
Well, do you see a spreadsheet? Does anybody see a
Got one
spreadsheet?
up now. Yeah, I
Excuse
see
me
it.
1 second. I've just got to take this quickly. I have an employee out clearing a tree. Yes, Dave, are you all set?
Mary, I think you have to take down, you have to unshare
Yeah,
your
you'll have to-
spreadsheet.
All right, I'm in a meeting back to the office.
Yeah. And Randall has sub spreadsheets.
Yeah, I have a complete, let me see where I'm at here. This is my wage spreadsheet. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right, so I just calculate out, this is the contractual step scale, because even though we're going to be out of contract when the fiscal year starts, my assumption is that the step scale will remain in effect. I have 4 employees who are off of the step scale. They've been here longer than the 5 years the step scale covers. So it only affects these 2. One of my employees still needs to earn a CDL in order to get onto the step scale. And then I have 2 open positions, a driver operator position and a mechanics position, which I calculated at mid-range. I didn't want to go too high or too low, and I figured mid-range was a safe option to calculate them at. So general highway wages covers 33 weeks. And winter roads wages covers 19 weeks of the year. We'll get back to winter roads wages and expenses as I have some thing to say about those. So I have projected 20 hours per person of overtime. For instances like tonight, I've already had 2 employees out clearing trees out of roads, and the night is still young and the wind's still blowing. And then in the wintertime, I've estimated 70 per employee, and I left these at 35 just because I don't know how long those positions are going to be open. And that's how I came up with my number for highway wages and winter wages.
The 70 hours, you get 10 at 7. What's the same?
10 events at 7 hours each. So
right. So how does the 20 relate to that? What did you get?
20? Oh, well, we have a
number of hours.
So in the winter time, under union agreement, my guys get a 3-hour minimum for a call-in. And in the summertime, clearing a branch or a tree rarely takes more than 3 hours.
All right. Pardon my ignorance here. Your employees are union,
Yes,
but you're not.
correct.
Okay.
East management.
What's that?
East management.
Yep. Okay. All right. So the union was just for non-management material. Okay.
And the 20 hours is based off past years.
Okay.
So I mean, if you could tell me how many storms there are going to be, how many trees are going to come down, how much snow we're going to get, how much ice, the price of fuel, I could give you a perfect budget, but there are so many variables. A lot of this goes off past data, which I have in a different spreadsheet. So how do I, do you have any questions about the wages?
I just had a question on those 2 open positions. How long have they been open?
Quite a while. And my guys who have been picking up the slack while they've been out are getting tired. So,
yeah.
Because my employees are great. They step up when we need. They've been doing longer hours out during storms. But it's got to end. I need to get staffed up because I step up and take up the slack as well. I'm a working superintendent. I'm out every storm, every winter storm. But I'm at the phone for trees down too because I have to dispatch people and make sure they're back safely, have the resources they need, etc.
Have you had any applicants?
We've had a couple, but they didn't have the minimum qualifications for the position. We need two professional licenses to be equipment operator and truck driver. You need a commercial driver's license, and you need a hoisting license, which is a state.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, I'm fine there, Randall.
Okay.
If anybody else has any questions?
So let's move on to general highway expenses. And I'm going to see if I can switch the screen I'm sharing. I believe this is the one I want. Nope, that's not. Good night, Dave. Thank you. It is. Bear with me just a second. Historical. All right, here we go. Share screen. Why is that one coming up? I'm having trouble finding the screen that I've got up down here. Let's try this one more time, and then if not, I'll go on a plan B. Okay, here it is. So we'll start with general highway. I've been collecting data since FY11. I took over this position in FY14 and sat down with the previous accountant to get a sense of what we spent on different things. You'll see as I went on in years, I've got more data and broken it out into more categories. But when I started, we actually only had a machinery maintenance, general highway, wages and expenses, and building expenses was just part of general highway, as well as stormwater compliance. So it was all mixed together. So that's why there are a lot of empty cells. I've tried to refine the data as I've gone through years. And this took a lot of hours sitting down with Vicki Morrow to accomplish. So if we want to start with general highway, I think that's the next one we're on. There's a lot of variability in a lot of the lines. Pavement preservation, the less we spend, or the more we spend on some of these other things, the less goes into your roads. It covers stuff like line painting, catch basin, culvert repair. There's a lot of things that amount of money covers. I don't have FY20 data yet because I haven't sat down with the new accountant. She's only here a couple days a week, and she is pretty busy. So do you have any specific questions about general highway or anything that's in the narrative?
I guess the implication as I read it is that you're really concerned about we should be full funding $500,000 to $550,000 a year, and we're nowhere near that.
Not in my opinion, no.
And haven't been for a number of years.
Correct. So the implication is that the condition of the roads gets worse every year. Because we're not funding in an infrastructure. Well, when you have a big budget like this, I understand why it's easy to steal from, to fund other departments that have deficits.
Right.
It's just you don't see the ramifications right away. It's a slow decay of the infrastructure.
Right.
And I don't want to stop beating the drum that we should be investing in it.
Randall.
Yes.
Any way we could use a capital improvement program for projects like pavement markings and things like that?
I don't usually. Well, that's another thing. Our fleet of trucks is pretty old, and we can't seem to keep up with the capital improvement plan either. So I wouldn't want to take from that account and then not fund capital improvements that would replace cruisers and fire trucks and plow trucks.
You got 2 new trucks, right?
Yes, in the last 2 years, yes. But before that, the last new truck was 2016, and I think the last one before that was 2012. So my capital improvement plan is pretty ambitious, and it's already been pushed off. I've asked for 2 trucks for both years and got 1 each year. So
Randall, can I ask? Were you able to get any equipment through the CARES Act funding?
We are approved for an emergency generator.
Okay.
I think Ed and I have to discuss that again. Believe we're waiting on the size of the tank, because we're also trying to fund a replacement of the heating system for here. Ours is painfully inefficient. Okay. And so Ed's got a grant. We're working with Eversource or some consultant to try to become more efficient. Okay. And the proposal is to switch over both the emergency generator and the heating system to propane.
Okay.
We burn
All
heating
right, so at least, hopefully we'll get some improvements in the pipeline, not through the general fund. Good,
Yes, yes.
good.
I mean, I try to get any equipment I can.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we got some pothole money from the governor in the spring, and I bought a $48,000 hot box, which was an improvement. We didn't have one before, so you could put hot asphalt into the holes instead of the cold patch, which doesn't stick as well.
Right, great.
We try. What's hard right now, I just talked to Christine about this today via email, trying to make up the workload from my administrative assistant. I know we're missing opportunities to get funding, grant funding, but I've got to fill positions before. There's just too much to do in a day. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Sorry to hear that, the cost of the vacancy.
That's, again, I'll beat the drum on wages too. Getting competitive wages, I think, is very important. Anything else on general highway?
Are you comfortable? I mean, you take a ride on East Street today. I drive the van, so I drive on quite a few roads in town. And today, East Street is got potholes like that, unbelievably. And I'm not trying to come down on that specifically, but it's got to be immense from the standpoint of having the people and having the money. And I'll bet you 10 to 1, one of the biggest things that taxpayers are concerned about is the condition of the roads.
Mm-hmm.
And having them plowed. I'm not saying that they're not comfortable with it. All I'm saying is if you give them a choice as to where they want the money to go and what they'd like to see, good roads are impassable roads, I'm sure, are high on the list.
East Street is disgusting.
I mean, are you comfortable that you've got the mechanics and the revenue to deal with what you're putting down here at $500,000 to $550,000 a year? I know you don't get that kind of money, but how do we keep the tax base happy?
I think that is the challenge of the finance committee and the finance team to figure out what the priorities are and adequately fund them.
Right.
East Street and the bridge are both, well, the bridge first and then East Street itself are on target for like the street 2025, if I'm correct, for state funding for repair. It's can we hold out until 2025?
Well, the answer there is no. We're going to have to put money into that before it can be rebuilt. We have to finish the design. I think 2025, maybe it can be done, but it might be overly optimistic. The bridge was the first step, and then design and bidding and reconstruction of East Street is the second part. But yeah, we're going to have to dump money into East Street. But I know this came up at the select board, and my question to the select board was, how much do you want to put into it?
Yep.
I'm trying to balance not only East Street but all of the other roads in town.
Oh, I know.
Because you don't want to let them get to that condition, because the longer you don't put money into a road for pavement preservation, it's like a car. If you don't do preventative maintenance on it, your fixes get more and more expensive.
Right.
So, I mean, I drive around in the spring, look at the roads. I consult the pavement management plan that PVPC did in 2018, sorry. And between those two, my observation and the pavement management plan, I make a work plan for the year based on the money I get from Chapter 90 and what I think I can accomplish with what's left of general highway expenses.
Okay. Let's move on, Randall. Go right ahead.
Okay. Next is machinery maintenance.
Yep.
So I have 20 20 large pieces of equipment. That's the big dump truck, plow trucks, an excavator, a road grader, a street sweeper, a roadside mower, and 2 bucket loaders. And my oldest piece of equipment, I believe, is the Caterpillar grader, and it is 36 years old. It was made in 1984. My newest one is the one we just got, the Freightliner 108 SD. But, you know, from 1 year old to 36 years old, every year they get a year older and they're not any cheaper to maintain. So
how often do you use the grader, Randall?
Every year we try to get to the dirt roads in town. We have 5 dirt roads, and already I'm getting phone calls about Upper Foamer that it needs to be graded. Well, unfortunately, I can't grade it until the mud firms up, but
Yep.
And the grader also works as an emergency snowplow. It has a wing that can be put on, and it can widen out roads when we get feet. Just about every piece of equipment other than the excavator, street sweeper, and roadside mower has a plow on it.
Huh.
Even our catch basin cleaner truck has a plow on it and a sander, drop-in sander. So they do double duty, and anything that's out in the salt is the price.
Yep.
I think. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying okay. Go ahead.
So I put a little bit of an example of some of the expenditures we've had to keep the trucks running. I know I've had a couple pretty expensive fixes this year, so I may be up against the ceiling of what I have to spend. And again, it usually has to get transferred from somewhere else. But if I don't have equipment that's running, I can't do work. So that just gives you an example. I've asked for more every year for the last 3 years, or, you know, we're flat funded this year. So 70,610 is what I've been given.
And that, where do you think that should be?
I think the 101 is high. Let's see, what did I estimate based on averages with a little bit of somewhere around 94, 950, about 95,000.
Okay.
An idea what we're looking on. Unbelievable.
And for a question on the MS4 stormwater management. I mean, it's not a big number. I'm just curious as to where it talks about.
All right, I can jump in and give you a little background on that.
I'm just curious as to where that 3875 came from. That's all.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a little background first. So the MS4 permit is a federal EPA permit. It's a ramification of the Clean Water Act. And basically all of the catch basins in the urbanized areas of town, and there aren't many, but we still have to comply with this, just like Westfield and Holyoke and all of the urbanized places around us. All of the catch basins discharge stormwater into water bodies. Some of them go into Pequot Pond, but most of the rest of them go into the Manhan, which ends up in the Connecticut River. So the permit is a 10-year permit, and the newest permit that came out, I believe 2016, there was a delay in implementation. The requirements became much more onerous. We used to spend about $5,000 on compliance, and so this year we have two professional organizations that help with compliance. We hire Ty and Bond to do a lot of the reporting. And in addition, we're a member of the Connecticut River Stormwater Coalition. So some of that is dues. There's $3,500 for dues for the Connecticut River Stormwater Coalition. And then Ty and Bond is $33,500. And then sometimes we have to do these mailers. And so the $275 is for postage. And the $33,500 is, Ed, Ed, are you on? I'm trying to remember. I sent you the exact number of the proposal we received. Was that $33,500 or? I'm not sure if you didn't change mine, but.
Yeah, I thought it was less than that.
I think so too. So on my sheet, it may be inaccurate, but I believe Ed changed it on my budget sheets. Do you have a different number there?
I have my numbers downstairs, so.
Of course.
I can double check this one. This.
That's.
I jump out of here and go to my.
Yeah, 28,875.
28,875. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the 38.75 for the year. Yeah.
Okay, so then the total's 32,650. So this was too high on this sheet, but hopefully on your sheets it's correct.
Yep. 28,875.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because that came in at just after you had sent the original budget.
Yeah, like literally 5 minutes after I sent you my budget sheets.
Yeah, but
Okay.
the total for that area is 28,875.
No, the total for the consultant is 28,875.
So is
Then
that,
we also have a $3,500 Connecticut River Stormwater Coalition dues, and I budgeted $275 for postage, printing and postage of any mailers that we're required to do for public education.
but all we have on your request for that line for the MS4 is 28,875.
875. All right, it needs to be 32,650.
The total,
The total for the stormwater compliance expenses line, yes.
32,650.
But it was only 25 last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were asked to cut it, so we asked the consultant if there were reports that could be pushed off a year, and they were pushed off to this year.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Is it 32,650?
Minimum.
Yeah. Yes.
Randall, I just had a curiosity at the winter roads wage line.
Okay.
You talk about a minimum required by the DOR. What's that?
Yeah, so maybe Ed can speak to this, but my understanding is that because the select board can declare an emergency, that line can be overspent, where a lot of budget lines can't. So the past practice has been only
no budget lines can be overspent except this one.
I'm sorry, what?
He said you're unique. Your budget line can be.
This is the only budget line a city or town legally can deficit spend.
Okay. I was looking at the last expense report, and it doesn't seem that's the case. But okay, I'll take that for. Yeah, so it's only been budgeted at the cost it was the previous year.
Okay.
But the problem with that is, if we deficit spend, that comes off the revenues in the next year. So I know a couple of years ago, I've lobbied for this almost every year, but the last 2 years I've kind of given up because it's the same story every year. I think what we spend on winter roads should be, both expenses and wages should be looked at And it should be brought up to that level so we aren't kicking the can down the road and just taking revenues off the top of the next year's funds. It just seems silly. We had two easy winters prior to this one, but this one I'm going to overspend.
No.
It's something to look at.
Okay. Anything else on your narrative?
I don't believe so. Winter roads, yeah. Winter roads and winter wages. I can go back to the wage sheet, but basically I think it's a pretty good estimation of what we could expect for storms. I mean, if we have more, then we end up deficit spending, but I try to control costs as much as I can.
Okay.
I think, I don't know if I went over building expenses. I think that's up at the top. That's basically utilities. It can go up significantly if we have problems with our ancient boiler. I'm hoping that the energy audit and switch over to a new heating source is successful because that'll take that variability out. Other than that, it's going to depend on things like the water bill keeps going up. They keep raising the rates. There's been a 133% increase since FY16 with the amount of water we use here. All of the other stuff is pretty standard stuff. The costs don't necessarily. We have variable costs and go over when we have problems, like garage doors breaking. The big garage doors we have here, there are 8, 9, 10, I believe 10 overhead doors here, and they're the big, huge, oversized ones. So when something goes wrong with one, it's a costly fix. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Building expenses looks like I'm doing okay this year, and I'm going to knock on wood so I don't have some catastrophic failure, but I don't think I asked for a big increase there, if any. I'm going to try to make it on what we've been given in the past.
Okay. I guess I would put, Mary, your big question is prioritize, right?
Yes, so we can.
Wish list. What's your wish list from the top?
That's a great question. I mean, I've told you how we've done things to squeeze costs, and how do you run an apartment on if I wish for this and get this funded, and something else isn't funded? I don't even know how to prioritize this.
Yeah,
you understand? Like I need employees, number one, and I need equipment.
Yep.
But if I have employees and equipment, we should have some work to do.
Right. So, but your feeling is that what % of your equipment probably needs replacement?
Let me see.
Or is that too general a question?
I could probably pull up my capital improvement just so you can get a sense of where my equipment is.
Brando, can we get copies of your spreadsheets?
Absolutely. All right, here's the. Bear with me just a second. I'm just looking for equipment age. Okay, here we go. Back to Zoom, share screen. All right, so here is my current equipment. It's a 1984 Caterpillar grader I mentioned, and then it goes down. We've got some pretty old equipment here, so it's been suggested to me that the useful life of most of this equipment is 12 to 15 years. So you can see I don't have a lot of new equipment. A lot of it's more than 12, and I can pull up my 10-year plan that I made last year or the year before. If you guys are done looking at this.
Can we get a copy of that?
Sure. You guys can get a copy of whatever you want. I make these tables and nobody ever wants to look at them but me.
You'll take it all, Randall. Send it all to us.
New crew.
And here's the 10-year plan for 2021. I was looking for 2 of these. I believe we were funded this one because this one was too expensive and we just got one the year before. And this could change a lot based on if a truck self-destructs. I mean, if an engine goes wrong and the cost is too much to fix it, I'd have to shuffle some of these things. But this is my 10-year plan, and it's pretty ambitious. It's big numbers for capital improvement, but we use big equipment.
Right.
Cool. Yep.
So let me start a list of things.
Randall, are these replacements, or are there any in here that would be in addition to?
Strictly replacements.
Okay.
I have, a vacuum truck down here is my only new equipment because we currently subcontract out a Vector unit. And I think as our urbanized areas under jurisdiction of the MS4 continue to grow, by 2030, we're probably going to need something like this. But we'll also need staff by then too. So we're going to have to make some serious changes to the way the town spends money.
That's impressive.
So let me get a list of what you guys would like. You want my worksheets for
One with the historical expenses.
Historical. You want wages. You want capital plan and equipment age.
Yep.
I've got those 4. Anything else you guys saw that you'd like to review?
Anything that you think might be helpful
All right.
to you?
I'm going to try to pull together the expenses for the winters, but I think I've got that file somewhere, but I didn't update it for like the last 2 years, so I'll have to add some information. I'll see if I can dig that up though.
Okay.
What we actually spent on winter, just so you guys can get a sense.
All right. All right. Any other issues that you have that before we open it up to questions? If anybody's got any other questions.
I just want to ask you, Randall, on your assistant, it's 20 hours to highway and 10 hours and 5 hours to transfer. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So it's 25 hours a week. Okay.
I hope. I mean, there's some wiggle room there because I think it's approved at a higher, it was reclassified and I haven't looked up what the range is for that. So I'll have to look at that when I have an applicant and try to decide, what they're going to get paid based on how technically proficient they are.
And you've been basically doing those responsibilities for the last couple of months.
Yeah, it's been real fun. And if there wasn't enough sarcasm there, I can try and slather it on.
No, I got it.
Ed knows where I'm going because he's been doing extra work for a while now too. You can only keep up with it for so long before. I don't know if I had this much gray before, but I do now.
No, you didn't.
All right. Any
Rachel
other,
and I get together once a week and commiserate with each other.
any other comments, thoughts?
If you think of anything afterwards, you have my contact information. I'd be more than happy to try and explain our operations even more thoroughly.
Randall,
Okay.
Yes.
your workforce, it's 40 hours a week they work, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Everything, as far as negotiations with the union, do you get involved in that?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Okay.
I usually, I mean, last time was I had the least amount of input, but it depends on the select board and the town administrator and things of that nature.
Okay. Okay. I guess we are good.
All right. Like I said, feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions, because I usually will think of something 10 minutes after I show off the Zoom meeting that I should have added. So you might get an email from me as well.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, Randall, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Stay safe.
Have a good night, Randall. Take care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
All right. Is this whole process televised?
Not televised. Well, it's recorded and it'll be on video.
But is it
available? Yes.
Is it on Spectrum 191?
No.
It's not. Okay. No, I'm just curious.
It's recorded, but it's not broadcast.
You're basically broadcasting live via Zoom,
Right.
and then the recording will be on Spectrum 191.
Yes. Right.
Right. But are we?
If they replay it. But other than that, it's in there. It's in Easthampton Media's files, so that someone wants to see the meeting, they can go click on it and watch it at any time.
All right. So we're still on the record now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You're always on the record to adjourn.
Yes. All right. And
Are there any privacy issues with discussing of wages? Is that all public knowledge?
It's all public knowledge.
Okay.
What in what regard to wages do you mean, Rachel?
Well, when they're discussing wages and who the individuals who are and what those wages are of the individuals, I mean, that it's been
Right.
discussed openly during these meetings, and
Right.
just want to make sure it was public knowledge and it was acceptable that it would be discussed.
Yeah.
The annual town report actually has a listing of all the town employees, their functions, their full names, and their annual salaries that are paid. It's all
Okay.
part of the official record.
Right.
Well, I learned a lot tonight about salaries. And I'm really surprised that even with the elected officials, that the town makes the final decision as to what their salary is.
Especially when they get to partake in the benefits that all the regular employees receive. They're segregated in their salaries and how that's acquired, but not with their benefits. It makes no sense to me, to be quite honest. It's like they're a hybrid like a hybrid subcontract or something.
Right.
Well, no, it's not. They work over 20 hours. Basically, the laws require them to start getting benefits when they work over 20 hours. So it has nothing to do with them being elected or not elected when it comes to benefits.
Oh, well, I don't think you were saying that, were you, Rachel? We weren't talking about benefits.
Well, I was, yes and no, so they get the benefits through the same method as the regular employees do, but yet their salary is born in a different, is determined in a different manner.
Right.
And in my opinion, it's determined in a different manner because you can't set the parameters for who you're going to hire. You know, basically, if you took my job description and then just said, and the requirements in it, and then said this is going to be an elected rather than appointed position, there's no guarantees you're going to get even the minimum requirements out of who gets elected for that position. So that's where the difference is driven. It's almost like you have to look at the individuals that are in those positions at the time they're in the positions, and basically what do they have for experience in a like position? If they do, how many years, how many hours are they working? You know, what do they got for, you know, credentials or training or what have you? Because you could have someone in there that's basically been elected for 15 or 20 years, have a master's degree, have all the credentials, the training, certifications, and basically be at maybe what would be the top of a salary scale, and then whether they leave, retire, get beat in an election, the next person that comes in may not have anywhere near that. So,
right. But if it's coming down to townspeople, I mean, they may not be concerned about where a person sits in a survey. If they don't want to pay the money, they just vote no, regardless of the situation.
The pay will be with the budget, though.
Yeah, at that.
Right, but if for whatever reason they don't, they can pull the trigger without any concern about the numbers. If you know what I mean.
Right, but at that point, I think they look to basically the select board and the finance committee and what they've recommended, and for those elected positions, for it being the right amount.
And how do the rest of the town employees deal with the unionized employees getting a raise and they don't?
Good question.
Is that all?
I mean, that's a hard part, and that's one of the things. That's one of the things I told the select board, as one of probably my first priorities when I was asking about them about theirs is, one of my first priorities this year is to take a look at those non-union employees up front and make a decision on a COLA for them, because 2 of the 3 years I've been here for budgets, those union employees, if they had a contract in place, would have gotten an increase where those non-union employees wouldn't have. So that's very important for me to look at this year. It's probably my number 1 or number 2 priorities on my list.
Right.
One of the things that we've emphasized is that, in making the case to the voters, is having them understand what not funding some of these things mean to them in terms of what services are lost, the conditions, like road conditions that we're talking about, and hopefully, appealing to that logic that they will support they'll support the recommendations. So it's a tough sell. It really is.
Right. How many employees are not unionized?
Not involved. Good question.
I'd have to do a manual calculation on that.
I think it's about 40. Am I right?
I think so. If you look at the PQB, that compensation plan, where they were looking at the, trying to align all the salaries, except they talk about 40 non-union employees, town employees.
Yeah.
Which would not include your school and your highway, your police, your dispatchers.
Right.
Okay.
So are those 40 people underpaid compared to the union people?
Well, they may not have gotten.
Totally different jobs, so
Right.
It's not a fair comparison.
But if you look at just COLAs alone, the union individuals have basically gotten 4%, 5%, while the other salaries have remained stagnant. So there is a gap. And I would assume there's some type of a morale effect also, that people are seeing, so-and-so receives a pay increase and I'm still at square one.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Does that come back to the PQB at all, Francine?
I don't know. I mean, I'm there for the last, 3 meetings? So.
No, I mean in the past.
In the past?
Yeah.
It goes back a number of years. Not that I understand that it would be an issue, but I don't recall how it was addressed in the past, honestly.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
I just want to compliment the tracking form that Mary put together.
Yep.
I think it's great.
I love my stoplights.
Yes, I think it's wonderful.
The only problem is that my printer picked a real bad time to have problems printing color. I can't figure out what's going on. So I've got colored pencils here.
There you go.
All right. Then I guess that the only other thing is to make sure that we're all on board for Wednesday's meeting at 5:30. Right.
Ed, do we have all the information?
I think you've got everything I've gotten so far, but I'll double check.
Because we were going to do the Board of Health, yourself, and the building inspector.
Okay, I'll meet with the building inspector tomorrow because I know we don't have his. You got mine except for my narrative, so I'll see what I can do between now and then. And I sent you the Board of Health stuff today.
Okay. So I'll send out those spreadsheets to everyone.
I sent you a book. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're also in the
I
process.
sent you the Board of Health today. I sent you the EMD today, and I resent you Jen's just in case there was anything that happened with the email that didn't go through.
So I'll send out to the FinCom tomorrow, then the Board of Health information, the spreadsheet, Ed's spreadsheet, and then if you can get me any information on the building inspector, so hopefully I can send just one packet out to everybody.
That'd be great.
Sure.
Because otherwise we'll be a little lost.
And Ed, we're also soliciting questions for Chief Workman, because he had expressed a concern that if we had specific questions to give him some time to come back with written responses to our questions. So I'm in the process of gathering those, and we'll get those off to you and hopefully get him addressing those.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, folks. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Moved in second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Diriak, aye.
Yeah, just remember, yeah, it's a roll call vote, so you gotta say your name and aye or nay.
Oh,
All right, we'll start again.
Whiskey, aye.
Cole, aye.
Diriak, aye.
Rachel, I.
That's it. All right.
Good
All
night,
right.
everyone. See you
Thank you
Wednesday.
all.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Yes.
Enjoy your day off tomorrow.
Check your emails, check your emails for your packages.
Thank you, I will. You're good, Mary.
Bye.
Good
All
night.
right.
Bye.
Have a good
Good
evening.
night. Good night.